often amazes me that how limited our ability to perceive spectra are. Mm-hmm. You know, because we can only see very narrow, and there's all this other stuff going on in microwaves and heat and so on that we can't see. We're just blind to. Maybe all stuff is going on all around us all the time that we just don't know about.
Yes, yes.
Are you suggesting that?
I am suggesting that they have a technology that deals in an even more subtle frequency than electricity or electromagnetism that goes to the soul. Yeah. And so now they've laid this seal of Solomon to bind spirits on top of a Native American burial ground. They have bound these spirits, these energies, these entities down there. And if we follow the Freemasons and we follow these secret societies on their trips across to America and many other places, they always subjugate and kill off the native peoples. You know, obviously the founding fathers, you know, passed smallpox to all the Native Americans. You know, that's what supposedly the first use of bioweapons.
I think that's what, yeah, I think the British are quite famous for doing stuff like that, really, in our empire. It's not the benevolent thing we were taught at school, really, is it?
No, no.
So this is interesting because, you know, if you take that thought and then go back to looking at perhaps aliens having visited Earth and interacted with us, why wouldn't they just kill us all off?
Right,
right. Or perhaps they did.
Perhaps they did.
And we're them.
Well, that's when we start to get into genealogies. That's when we start to, what is that next shot?
The next shot is...
oh, we're getting the corporate logos. Okay.
No, we won't go there then.
Because the idea of genetic memory is something that has been intriguing me all my life. Because it has been shown, and I don't know if you want to call out that picture with the wolf on it, it has been shown that genetic memory is a provably scientific fact. That what happens is you can have a chick come out of an egg and show it a predator, and it will know that predator without ever having seen one before in its life. It will react to it.
I think the best example of that is cuckoos. You know, how do cuckoos know that they're cuckoos?
Yeah.
That they should mate with a cuckoo when they've been brought up by, you know, some other bird?
Yeah.
How do they know that they're a cuckoo and that they should then go and lay their egg in another bird's nest and so on and so forth?
And things that we couldn't possibly know. I didn't know if they got the...
We're not getting that image. It's an image.
That's okay.
Do we know what number it is?
No. It's okay.
Okay.
But the concept is that we are passing this genetic memory along. And so I personally think that I was coming to understandings like I did because of my bloodline, because of my family. And then, therefore, now I have a quicker catch to understand things. Mm-hmm. And this would explain why the ancient Egyptians had sex with their sisters and mothers, or why the royalty, the monarchy, has to keep it all in the blood.
Well, my understanding was that they did that to maintain power, because if no one else could marry their sister and then claim to be king, or no one else could marry their mother and then claim to be king, right. So the only way to make sure that didn't happen was by having a wedding, a marriage. And then they were married. They were already taken. That was my understanding of that.
Well, that's what we consider a rational, reasonable explanation to things.
Somewhat irrational, rational, yeah.
But we start to get to some strange anomalies of lineage, where we'll find that Bush is related to Marilyn Monroe, Hillary's related to Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt's related to Obama, McCain's related to Britney Spears, and you start to wonder, you know, well, what's going on? Why are all these singular bloodlines being in charge, and why? And perhaps we are correct in that it's only a matter of property or keeping property within the family. But what we find is that the sorcerers, the magicians, the ones that are doing the dark rituals, and these are your leaders. I mean, these are, you know, Masonic people that practice these high ritual occult rituals. So the ritual is used to bring in a spirit. The ritual is used to make contact with another entity, an outside entity. What made Aleister Crowley so famous was that he contacted an entity known as a was, and he channeled the Book of the Law. And that book is housed at the UT campus in Austin, Texas, where I live. And this is what made Aleister Crowley famous, was because he had made contact with that being.
He had some interesting party tricks, didn't he? And I remember reading that he could walk along a road behind somebody who wasn't aware he was there, and then duck down, and the person walking in front of him would duck down as well. without realizing why.
Makes me think of Darren Brown. Well, the whole thing is to be able to channel these other entities. This is what theosophy was about. Many of the esoteric arts. And so if you have, it's becoming obvious or known that DNA receptors and the light frequencies that we're receiving are actually like antenna. And so particular DNA receptors would retain their information. And this is what I believe is the reason they have sex with their sisters, is to keep the DNA pure, not the money.
But isn't one of the reasons that mankind doesn't mate with its siblings because you have genetic
anomalies?
Well, you have like diseases, hereditary diseases, thrown up far more readily.
Yes.
I mean, there are groups of people, aren't they, religious sects and so on, that do a lot of that inbreeding.
Yes.
And they end up with, you know, things like very bad eyesight or, you know, hereditary diseases and that kind of thing.
Evolutionary, it makes no sense. But we have been supplanted with a system. A system has been placed upon us that is not human. And that's really where I start coming from, is that civilization is not human. If we look at it, it's not structured to cater to the human at all.
You mean if we were all to say, all right, let's start again, let's structure society, but haven't people tried? They've tried communism and capitalism and...
Once again, you keep going back to the same occult orders that are doing this. And they actually are working polarities. And so they actually, you'll find that, you know, the Freemasons fomented the French Revolution. They fomented the American Revolution. They are constantly pitting polarities against each other.
And I know Prescott Bush, for instance, who was George H.W. Bush's father and George W. Bush's grandfather, financed Adolf Hitler.
Yes.
In the Second World War. But wasn't that just about money and power?
Well, no, because once you start realizing what Hitler was into, you look into things like the Brotherhood of the Bell, their ideas of hyperdimensionality, the seeking of Shambhala, the ancient technologies that they were seeking, and flying saucers that they were building. They had a much bigger ideal. It was a religion. It was a full belief system, not just a political or military idea. Yeah. It was this whole concept of being divine beings. And so, you know, when you start looking into Himmler and the ones in the SS that are getting into the deep occult, then you start to realize, no, that's not what it was all about. There is a larger story. If we start getting into corporate logos, which actually would be the next image.
Let's go to image 7 then.
Now this was really part of my awakening. Now what had happened to me was I started recognizing Masonic meaning in every corporate logo I saw. And I started classifying them all. And I've outlined and updated every corporate logo of any major corporation that you can.
We haven't got the image up yet, but let's just start talking about them as though they're there. So what we're saying is that the images of these successful companies are linked to esoteric symbolism.
Absolutely. Signs
all
of allegiance.
All of these symbols
I can identify and classify within Masonic ritual.
Well, let's look at the Virgin logo, for instance. There's just text.
Right.
What's Masonic about that?
Well, your Virgin is our eye in the pyramid. You know, over in America, we've got Time Warner running all of our trains and cables and telephones, and here we have Virgin, I noticed. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a very, very interesting and intriguing tale that really brought me out into the open and also made my first film, which is on the goddess Columbia. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, in Britain, we call her Britannia.
Yes.
What we find is this concept of Isis, Horus, and Osiris. And many of the logos that you'll see, the reason Hitler canted the swastika goes back to Osiris, Isis, and Horus.
You mean why it was at an angle, it wasn't square?
Exactly.
But I'm sorry to push you on this, but no. What is esoteric about the Virgin logo?
Well, just the Virgin itself.
Well, the idea of the Virgin.
Yes.
I mean, it's the name, not the logo necessarily.
Right. Well, the V is very symbolic for them, and we'll get to the V. Okay. And that would be why the V is so prominent. But, of course, it's Virgin. But they think about these type of things. And I know that it seems kind of like you could just pick and choose. But if you started with, say, ABC, NBC, CBS, and all their logos.
They use a lot of sun symbolism, don't they?
Well, ABC has no logo. It's just the word, or the letters ABC.
Yeah.
Now, this is the Trinity again. And so the Trinity goes back to Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Then when you get to CBS, that's Columbia Broadcasting Systems, and their symbol is the eye.
Yes,
Now, Isis was known as the eye goddess, and this eye goddess is carried through time.
Is this like the eye on the top of the pyramid?
Exactly.
Which is on the $1 bill?
Which in Hebrew means the devil. Well, each letter in the Hebrew alphabet has a correlating number and a tarot card in Kabbalism.